Do you know who Hunter Moore is?
Nope.
Okay, I'm going to tell you about him. This is a small little corner of American history that probably not too many people know about, but a lot of people do. So, Hunter Moore, born March 9, 1986, is an American convicted criminal from Sacramento, California. A lot of this is just going to be from Wikipedia, but then a lot of it's also going to be created the revenge porn website Is Anyone Up? Question mark. It's called Is Anyone Up? Which allowed users to post sexual and explicit photos of people online without their consent, often accompanied by personal information such as their names and addresses. He refused to take down pictures on request. Moore called himself a professional life ruiner. So this kid in 2010 created a website where you would go on and post pictures of like nudes of people other than yourself, right? And yeah, so Is Anyone Up was founded in late 2010 when founder Hunter Moore was 25. He stated that the idea for the site came from a woman who he continually asked to send him suggestive pictures. He then created a blog hosting nude photographs from anyone, and it eventually became isanyoneup.com. As of November 2011, the website was netting as much as $13,000 a month. Moore said that he spent generally 12 hours, 5 days a week managing posts, and that the website had over 30 million page views a month. So 30 million page views a month is a lot. I mean, I don't know if it sounds like a lot to people, but it's a lot. Submissions to the website usually followed the same formula, depicting a person's social networking website profile thumbnail, such as their Facebook or Twitter, then showing images of them clothed before revealing images of them naked. In some cases, images showed people engaging in sexual acts such as masturbation. And he kind of, it's like the website was very much like a emo scene like thing of like emo bands and like those like tattooed chicks with like the long black hair with the covered over their eyes. Like,
yeah, the hottest of groups of women. Yeah, I'm all about it.
yeah, because it was like 2011, which I guess was like the end of like emo scene shit, but it was still out there. And he kind of looks like he's just like black hair, white kid, kind of tall with like the black skinny jeans. And like the guy wasn't really like the greatest person. He was really like a trashy piece of shit, right? But entertaining nonetheless. And yeah, so Hunter Moore stated that he took legal precautions before uploading images to the site, initially verifying the age of the people whose photographs were submitted through social networking sites. He sent the IP information of people who submitted photos of underage individuals to a lawyer in Las Vegas, who turned it over to law enforcement. Another category on the site was called Daily Hate, featuring angry reactions from people who had their pictures posted without their consent.
That's awesome.
The sending the IP information of people who submitted of underage individuals to a lawyer is pretty awesome, I think. Overall, though, kind of a terrible thing to do.
It is. And at one point in my life, I would have been, I don't know, I wouldn't really care, I think, now. And I might have been on there. You know, there was a few times a few dick pics snuck out, you know, to some girls.
Jesus.
Fucking, would you ever be in trouble for this?
Probably.
Oh, okay.
Many of the subjects were outraged by inclusion on the site, claiming the explicit photos had been hacked from their personal computers or shared with former boyfriends or girlfriends, and that the photos had been posted as a form of revenge. Because of this, the site's content became known as revenge porn. Moore reportedly responded to multiple cease and desist letters with simply LOL, and would regularly argue that the law protected his activities. In response to public bragging by Moore about the website, BBC named Moore the net's most hated man, and Rolling Stone called him the most hated man on the internet. Moore eventually faced numerous lawsuits and an FBI investigation. He was also stabbed in the shoulder with a pen by a woman who had been featured on the site. In April 2012, Moore sold the website to an anti-bullying group. He posted an open letter explaining his decision. Yeah, so I guess it started late 2010. April 2012, he sold it to an anti-bullying group. So that's not that long of a run. I mean, that's under 2 years, but it was. I remember hearing about it in summer 2011. I heard it on a podcast saying, "Oh, this website is hosting pictures of naked band members from like emo bands that like chicks would send to the website." But I probably went on there under 5 times, and I remember going on there and you could search like your state and see people that were posted from your state and shit like that. It was really strange. I mean, it's kind of, and I think he kind of just stumbled onto the whole thing, but it was just a crazy time. It was like the Wild West of the internet still. It wasn't so crazy and regulated and shit like that, I feel like. And he was really just, he would do these things on his Twitter account where he'd be like, girls would send him naked pictures and he would retweet them. Then the girl would get like thousands of followers and he would send them a t-shirt. So you'd just be scrolling down his Twitter account feed or whatever, and it'd just be, you know, naked girl after naked girl. And then he'd do really crazy things. He'd be like, you know, whoever can put the strangest thing in their vagina, like, go win, I'll give $1,000. And then he'd be retweeting all the pictures of that, and like all these really like degenerate, nasty things and shit like that. However, it was entertaining most of the time. I don't know. So Charlotte Laws, the mother of one of the victims on the site, decided to track Moore down and conducted a 2-year investigation where she compiled evidence from more than 40 victims and gave it to the FBI. And this lady, Charlotte Laws, is still to this day like this huge advocate, activist for revenge porn. It's called revenge porn because it's just not sent by the person in the picture. It's sent by somebody else.
So was there laws created after this for like...
Yeah. I'll get to that.
To where it's... Okay.
Yeah. Because you'd think that'd be illegal anyway, right? Or maybe that's just our mindset today.
Yeah, what if you send like your buddy your ex's pictures? Is that illegal?
See, I have no idea. That's a good question. I don't know. He would always say, like, once you send the picture to someone else, it's like going as a gift, and now it's that person's property. He would say things like that, but it's like, is that actually the legal, you know?
I don't know. At one point in my life, I was offered money for a girl's pics that I had on my phone. I had a buddy that we were all drunk, and I was like, oh, no, I got an ex of mine. I was like, oh, no, I got a bunch of pictures on my phone of her. And he's like, what? He's like, I'll pay you for those. And I was like, yeah. And then I thought about it the next day. I'm like, yeah, I'm not fucking doing that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but mainly, maybe, I don't know, looking back at it, the thought process may have been, I was like, yeah, but she has a bunch of my dick pics. And so I was like, we'll just, keep this fucking, we both got collateral, we both have, some damage on each other. So we'll,
right.
I'll respect her pictures if she respects my pictures.
Jesus. So in 2012, Moore and a colleague hacker named Charles Evans were suspected of hacking-related crimes. The Wire stated that on multiple occasions, Moore paid Evans to break into the email accounts of victims and steal nude photos to post on the website isanyoneup.com. When it became apparent to Moore that news about his FBI investigation was beginning to surface to the public, Moore responded with, I will literally fucking buy a first-class fucking plane ticket right now, eat an amazing meal, buy a gun in New York, and fucking kill whoever talked about my FBI investigation. I'm that pissed over it. Moore also threatened to burn down the Village Voice headquarters if they ran a story about his FBI investigation. They nevertheless ran the story. And he had like a well, his Twitter account was the main thing that I followed. Never really going to the website, but then he also started a podcast, and I listened to that a few times, which was really kind of bad. They were trying to do like a call-in show where all these people would call in, but wasn't that good to listen to. But they would talk about like music and stuff like that, and I don't know. It was just you're like this guy is crazy, and it'd always just be about like coke and ecstasy and getting drunk and just like the party never stops and just banging chicks. And he was going around DJing parties and like throwing parties, and these parties were just like just like debauchery. Like this is the last place you'd want your kid to be at one of these parties. And he just tried to make it sound really appealing. And I don't know, I guess it did to young kids like me. Okay, so this is kind of weird and legalities. So in 2013, California became the first state to pass a bill specifically banning revenge porn, the act of posting nude photos or video for the explicit, malicious purpose of causing embarrassment or distress. Okay, revenge porn is the act of posting nude photographs or video, typically of an ex-girlfriend or spouse, online with malicious intent. Several websites popped up to host and facilitate this behavior, most notably isanyoneup, a popular revenge porn site with ties to the music scene, which shut down in 2012. Though the site's founder, Hunter Moore, has since been subject to FBI investigations. Websites and their operators are, in general, unable to be held liable for content uploaded by other individuals under the Communications Decency Act of 1996. Though California doesn't specifically use the term revenge porn, it outlines the crime in its new bill as this. It says, any person who photographs or records by any means the image of the intimate body parts of another identifiable person, which circumstances where the parties agree or understand that the image shall remain private, and the person subsequently distributes the image taken with the intent to cause emotional distress, and the depicted person suffers serious emotional distress, is guilty of disorderly conduct and subject to that same punishment. So that's kind of weird. That's how the bill is worded. So with that wording, and in a seemingly huge oversight, the bill applies only to photographs and videos taken and distributed by the offender, but not to those taken or sent by a victim. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. In many instances, nude selfies sent out with reasonable expectation of privacy are more often likely to be subject to revenge porn, though discussion exists as to whether knowingly taken and digitally distributing suggestive photographs of oneself is an inherently risky endeavor. Activists leading the charge against revenge porn dismiss that argument as a form of victim blaming. Okay. Yeah, see, that's confusing shit. Additionally, the American Civil Liberties Union have raised concern over the bill's broad warning. So it's like legislation was passed, but people say it still wasn't worded right.
Okay.
On January 23, 2014, Moore was indicted in a federal court in California following his arrest by the FBI on charges of conspiracy, unauthorized access to a protected computer, and aggravated identity theft. Many of these crimes were committed in an effort to obtain nude images of people against their will. He was released 2 days later on a $100,000 bond. He was allowed no access to the internet and required by law to dismantle the archives he owns for isanyoneup database while the FBI monitored him doing so. It's crazy that the FBI gets involved. In February 2015, he pled guilty to aggravated identity theft and aiding and abetting in the authorized access of a computer. In addition to mandatory prison sentence, he also agreed to a 3-year period of supervised probation, a $2,000 fine, and a $2,000 fine. He also received an order that he delete all the data on his computers. He was sentenced to 2.5 years in federal prison. And then the hacker that he paid to do that was sentenced to 7 years in 2015. So that's kind of weird that it got to a point where he started paying for people to hack other people's computers to get nudes. that's
That
not
is
the
nutty.
that's really nutty. That's not the how it started, you know. It started with submissions, although submissions by angry exes. And you'd think that would just be illegal, but maybe that's just our mindset now, not our mindset 10 years ago, where it was kind of like the Wild West, like you can just post whatever you want to post. But I think it did ruin a lot of people's lives because,
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know. It's a crazy thing. It's a crazy time.
Yeah, and people 10 years ago, I don't know, they just didn't have, I didn't have the idea, like, doing fucking pictures back and forth, you know, because 10 years ago, that was like a brand new thing. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Your phones were just capable of doing it. You know what I mean? Fucking, I don't know. It didn't even dawn on you like the internet was going to be what, I mean, it was big then, obviously, but it's just a different beast now. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Fucking,
Or
yeah,
that like some
now that's like obvious. You know, all this shit's obvious. Like social media is obvious. Like, but in, you know, 2007, I don't know. It wasn't obvious what it was going to be. 2008, 2009. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Fucking.
It didn't seem like it would have like real world consequences, like jail time for something you
Yeah.
posted on the
Yeah.
internet.
It was like, dude, I was on MySpace. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like fucking. When Facebook came out, I was like, what the fuck's Facebook? You know, blah blah. And everyone's like, no, it's gonna be big. I'm like, fuck Facebook.
Yeah.
And then it fucking blew TF up.
Yeah. It's going to rule the world.
Ah, it's crazy. I wish we talked about this last week off camera, and I wish I wouldn't have known because I was like enamored by this when you were talking about it with me. I was like, what? I hadn't heard any of this shit. Didn't.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a crazy thing. I can't believe I'd never heard about it.
Yeah, and he was like on Dr. Drew, and he was on this Anderson Cooper show where they had two girls on there that were victims of, you know, the website, and they were like confronting him on there, and he's like, "Hey, look, you took the pictures. Nobody put a gun to your head to take the fucking pictures." Like, if
Yeah,
you,
and that's I don't really blame him for that shit. He just made a website. You know what I mean? He
yeah,
didn't take the pictures, and he didn't post the pictures. You know what I mean? Someone else did all this.
yeah,
He just supplied the fucking, you know.
yeah. Yeah, he was like, you want to know the best way to not get your nudes posted online is to don't take them in the first place, and stuff like that. But I don't know.
It's a good argument. I mean, you can't argue with that argument. The best way for other people not to see your naked body in a picture is
Don't
don't
take
take
the picture.
pictures of your naked body. It seems like day one, you know, that's step one.
Yeah,
You can argue that the site's evil and shit like that, but
yeah,
the reality of it, if a picture of my dick was out in public, I'd be most mad at myself. You know what I mean? I'd
right.
be like, I'm an idiot. You know
That's
what I mean?
true.
Like, I'm an idiot. Then the next person I'd be mad at is the ex-girlfriend who let that picture get out. Then she's number two. And then my third frustration be, yeah, where the site it's posted. But
Yeah,
I wouldn't even, by the time I got to them being mad, I would have already wasted all my mad energy on myself and the person that posted the picture.
yeah. Yeah, it's I don't know, but because so if you ever hear the term like revenge porn, it basically stems from that site and that guy. But yeah, I think he just stumbled across it, like a 25-year-old who just decided to make a blog and post people's nudes, and
I
then
mean,
it
isn't
turned
it how everything starts? You
yeah,
know what I mean? That's how Facebook started, right? Like
right.
fucking just this random thing that became way bigger than anyone thought it was going to be. You know
Yeah,
what
it
I
was
mean?
just supposed to be for Harvard, for a social networking site just for Harvard.
Yeah.
Yeah, but so then but now it's like, you know, like if a sex tape gets released, like someone's going to jail. Now someone's going to jail. Like you can't do that. So our thinking now is 100% like, oh, if something that's private gets released, someone's going to jail. But I guess it just hasn't always been that way. I don't know. It was craziness.
It's a crazy story. Never heard about it at all.
Yeah. So I guess he wouldn't have went to jail if he didn't just hack for the nudes. If he would have just been the host, maybe he wouldn't have gone to jail. And he's like, I still follow him on Instagram, and it's like now he says he's a part of some like new Netflix doc that's coming out. So I don't know.
Oh, they're going to make a documentary about the whole thing? It's a good
Yeah,
story.
but it might.
I didn't
Yeah,
hear anything about this. I never knew anything about this.
yeah. I was just active on social media and I was just fucking following shit back then
Yeah. Crazy story. Crazy story.
a little bit.
So, anything else you got on that?
No, I just haven't asked Beef's question